Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the PHNX Rising Podcast presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. My name is Ramon Chavez, and alongside me is my partner, Owain Evans. And back there we got Edwin Perez, El Jefe, in the house. Let's start with Owain. Owain, how are you, sir?
I feel like, much like Edwin is, I'm sure, pretty thirsty for some content here, yeah?
You gotta love some Landon Donovan content before the show. I know you guys appreciate it, so I had to tweet it out. Shout out to both, Owen and Ramon. I can't take full credit for the tweet, but gotta give it to the fans. Gotta give them what they wanted.
That's the content you can assure we're gonna be bringing to you throughout the course of the season. So great to be back here on this Tuesday. It's a 2-2-2-2-2 Tuesday. Did you guys see that today? That was smooth. Yeah, you did that very well. I don't know if I could do that under pressure like you did right there, but we'll take that. Awesome. And I want to give a quick shout out to everybody that's tuning in. Thank you so much. If you guys haven't yet, make sure to like this video, share, and subscribe as well. The more you guys do that, the bigger we grow, the more fans we can have in the house, and the more content we can have you, like more Landon Donovan picks. So just be on the lookout for those. And then just a little heads up, if you guys have not checked out my shirt, let me see if I can get it in the camera here. You guys can go to PHNX Locker and get your very own PHNX Rising Podcast shirt. It's pretty cool. Again, you guys can go to phnxlocker.com and get the Rising shirt. Brand new. We saw some people at the game on Saturday, Owen, right? They were already getting it?
There were a few who were already wearing it out there. So, yeah. Go ahead and buy one.
Yeah, go ahead and buy one. Helps us, helps PHNX, and it makes you look good. Who doesn't want to be wearing this shirt? So go ahead and do that. All right, y'all, we got a great show for you today. We'll be talking about last Saturday's game between Rising and Louisville City. Also, we're going to get some updates from Owen. He went to today's press conference with head coach Rick Schatz. He's going to have some updates on the team, the trial list, all that good stuff. So we'll be talking about that. And then towards the end of the show, we'll be talking about the double header that's going to be happening this upcoming Friday against Valley United and Detroit City FC. So a loaded show today. We got the crew here. So let's go ahead and get started. So last Saturday, Rising faced off against Louisville City over there at Wild Horse Pass. It was a scrappy game to describe it in some manner. 2-2 was the final score. So I honestly like that. I like these preseason games that are a little bit more, contentious, for lack of a better word. But how did you feel about it, Owen?
About the game as a whole, or about the scrappiness? Let's talk about the scrappiness, I guess, a bit. And it's something that obviously isn't the first time we've seen that this preseason, right? It happened against Sporting Kansas City as well. You had the mass confrontation, and it's not the first time that we've seen this happen in a Rising preseason game. Let's not forget the game-ending fight that happened down in Tucson when, when Darnell King got sent off at the very end in a Tucson friendly last year. I believe that was against RSL. I think that, don't get me wrong, of course you're happy to see that the boys are out there and trying hard and pushing for it and fighting this early on. Of course, there's a large part of it that makes you think, when this matters, do you really want to see people picking up cards for that? How many cards did they pick up when you look at it? There were 2 for the mass confrontation. Santi then got one for, similar reaction to a foul where he goes in and just shoved someone over pretty much. Sent them flying. Do you really want to see those cards in a regular season game when they matter, when they count towards card accumulation, even though, I guess the card accumulation with the change from 5 games to 8 games for a suspension, it's not as bad as it once was. Yeah. Do you really want to go down that road? And the answer is, probably not.
Yeah, better not.
And it just makes you think, given it's a friendly, given there shouldn't be as much on the line with these.
Yeah. And there's different factors to that, and we'll get to it a little bit later on. But overall, I think it was a good warm-up around 3 weeks away from the start of the regular season. I think it was a good warm-up for their July 20th meeting. And again, if you guys weren't aware of that, they will be playing, Rising will be playing Louisville in a nationally televised game on ESPN2 on July 20th. So very, looking forward to that, especially with what we saw there on Saturday. Let's go over the lineups, the starting lineup, which is presumably the starting 11, right? We had Ben Lunt, Babu, James Musa, Joey Farrell, Darnell King in the back, Lambert, Quinn, Arturo Rodriguez, Marcus Epps, Santi Moore, and Claudio Repetto, who went around 45 minutes. What did you feel about the starting lineup there, the first half?
I mean, they had spells where they were okay, spells where they weren't. I mean, it's not hugely necessarily to be surprised at, right? We're still somewhat early in preseason. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know that it's not that far away at the same time from the start of the regular season, but the preseason's not that long this year. So, I don't know. This still take time, and especially in the attack, I think it'll take time because you have to remember that your centre forward is different this season. No matter whether he goes with Claudio Repetto or takes Greg Hurst, because there is still a battle going on there. I think between those two. But Marcus Epps is new to the side. In that front three, you've only really got Santi that's carried over from last season. So it's not a surprise that sometimes in the attack they weren't quite, looking as good as they can do, or looking as good as we've become accustomed to Rising looking. So yeah, it'll still take time. These things do take time, and especially in friendlies, you can never put too much stock in them. You have to kind of temper that a bit. Mm-hmm. I think that as a whole, though, I think you are right. That 11 that we saw out there is, with the exception maybe of the centre forward, probably the 11 that we should expect to see on the opening game of the season.
During the first half, Darnell King opened up the score. I thought it was a beautiful run in the back post, and I think that's one of the things that I've been hearing on social media, that with Solo gone, it opens up kind of like that back run for Darnell King to kind of push up a little bit more forward and be more involved defensively. So what did you think of that first play? Marcus Epps went by a couple of defenders, did a low cross throughout the middle of the box, and then Darnell King was able to seal it home. So Darnell King doing well, 1 assist against Sporting Kansas City, and then a goal here against Louisville. So what did you think of that?
I think that, when you look at Darnell, I think he will fit in perhaps better on the attack with Marcus Epps. Mm-hmm. That's just down to who Marcus is as a player and how he plays and how that differs from Solo, and the way that he works in that system with the fullback running up behind him and overlapping and all of that. I mean, when you actually look at the goal, Epps actually was, some of the movement he had to actually get the ball across to Darnell, and the way that he did weave around some of those defenders was very good and very nimble. Mm-hmm. I think he did look good on that goal. I think Darnell, though, as a whole, he's looking like he's that same fullback that we saw last year rather than the one that we saw in 2020, and I think that's good. He needs to keep that momentum going because he did have a good season last year, and he really fit in well with Rick's system last year, and he's just got to keep that up.
Louisville City then scored towards the end of the half. We were on that side of the pitch when Louisville scored off that goal. It was a corner kick. Do you think the players were just kind of tuned out at that point? They were just looking forward to halftime? Is that what happened? Because it just looked like it was really disorganized, and then the goal came out of nowhere.
Well, I hope so, because I'm not sure what they were doing, if I'm honest. It was a very, very strange way of defending a corner. I know that Rick, after the game, kind of explained that away, saying, look, people were confused. We weren't expecting stoppage time. The coaches were busy arguing over that. There was a lot of confusion just in general. Yeah. And that's how the goal happened. But, I mean, you've really got to hope they defend set pieces better than they did at that moment, because that was poor.
Yeah.
Again, you can put it down to the confusion, and in a friendly, that's okay. In a preseason game, it doesn't hugely matter. But if you do that in the regular season against USL teams, you are going to get caught.
No, definitely. And unfortunately, the bad defense continued towards the second half with Wilson Harris scoring off a rebound in the second half. I couldn't really blame Lund too much for that one, but he kind of did let go of the ball and just kind of came across to Harris, who was able to score it. Is that something that that you've been seeing, or kind of like a pattern in these preseason games where Rising don't end the halves or don't start the halves as with much intensity as they should have?
I mean, perhaps to an extent. I mean, it's a very small sample size. Let's just remember that we're reading into things that have happened over 2 preseason games that we've been able to watch.
I think we should.
You know?
We should. Yeah,
we've been able to watch them play against
Yeah.
Sporting Kansas City, and we've been able to watch them play against Louisville. So it is a small sample size. I know that Rick mentioned, especially in that second half, they didn't really come out with the intensity that they wanted, as you were mentioning there. And part of that, I think, is fitness. There is an extent to which, you know, these boys, they put, 45 minutes in against Sporting Kansas City. They then took the next step, which was 60 minutes. The next step is going to be presumably 75 minutes. And then you look to make people go the whole 90. I mean, there's still fitness there. That's the thing. They're still working on their fitness. It's going to take a little bit of time to get that. And hopefully they do get through that over the next few games and looking a lot sharper by the time the regular season comes around.
Yeah, definitely. You mentioned the second group, or that the first group only went around 60 minutes. The second one that came in was Lalo Delgado at the goalkeeper, Ryan Flood, Channing Chaston, Trialist 1 and 2 as the center backs, and then we had Jonathan Levin, Seijas, Anguiano, Calistri, Gutierrez, and then Greg Hurst finished out the game. I did see Richmond Antiwi. He was in street clothes. He probably wasn't going to play at all this game, so... second group was able to get a goal. You know, Joey Calistri, Clutch Calistri, which I found out is a bit of a nickname that he has. He came through in the 65th minute with a header, a really nice header. That was really a good turn of a flick of the head, and was able to score the second goal for Rising. So, did you like the second group, or kind of tuned out at that point? What did you feel of it?
I mean, it's hard to argue when they come on and get a goal within 5 minutes.
Yeah.
And then for everything negative that we said about the set piece defending, the one that they conceded in that first half, that set piece in the second half where he scored the goal was very well worked, right? It was put in the perfect spot. Calistri was right there where he had to and gets his head on it. And I mean, of course you trust Vito to get those. When you look at it though, beyond that, they didn't look too bad out there. But again, I think that as a whole, you got to remember they are going to be probably the second group. Again, we don't really know, I guess, with Hurst. We don't really know with Repetto which way around they're going to be. But those people who came on in the second half, they are going to be the second group. I wouldn't expect to see at the start of the season any of those players in the starting 11. Now, I know some people will say they'd like to see Ryan Flood there. I just don't see that. I think that it is going to be Baboucar Jai who is the first choice. Now, that isn't to say that Ryan Flood can't work his way into the side, but I don't think he's going to achieve that in this preseason. Yeah.
And you saw it with Njai where in the first half, he literally will take the ball from Rising's, own box and dribble it all the way towards the other end of the pitch. And I don't know if Flood is the guy that brings that one to the table. And I think that's one of the dimensions that Njai brings to the team by being the starter. So Owen, key players that stood out to you. I know you talked about the second group not being the starters, but anybody that you said, you know what, they've been playing pretty decent.
Oh God, sorry, I was looking at the comments. Can you repeat that question?
What key player stood out for you on Saturday?
The key players that stood out for me on Saturday. Okay, good, right. I think that as a whole, this one is I'm sure gonna shock some people. Actually, it's in there with Lalo undefeated against MLS. I think that it's interesting to see the fact that Lalo has, over the course of these friendlies, not conceded a goal.
Yeah,
right?
I think Michael just put it on the chat.
Yeah. And I think there's definitely something to be said for the fact that people questioned after a string of, not so great performances towards the end of the season last year, whether he was actually going to be up to being the backup for this team, whether he was ready to step up in case something happened to Ben Lund as a starter. And I think that in these preseason games, he is now giving at least an indication that, yes, he is capable of stepping up. I think that besides that, look again, Joey Calistri, he always seems to pull a goal out from somewhere. Always when he needs it. Always. I mean,
is Calistri gonna be the super sub this year? Is that kind of his
He's
role?
always been the super sub. I guess that's he's got this weird knack of scoring goals when they're needed. He also tends to, he can come on pretty much any position you really need.
Yeah.
With the exception, I think, of funnily enough, he wasn't mentioned in the centre-back conversation today, which, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Joey could probably play any position on the field. He seems to always pull it off somehow. I think you've got to look at him, and I think that as a whole, with the exception of the second half, where I think they were looking a bit laggardly, they were a bit tired. And that one set piece where they really just switched off. I don't think defensively Rising were that bad in the first half. I think that the unit as a whole seemed to work there.
And speaking of defense, no clean sheets in their first 3 preseason games. Is that a concern for you? Do you think kind of like that influx of injuries in the back line is affecting Rising, or is this something that we can kind of brush off as just being a preseason?
I think that it's 2 games against MLS teams and 1 against one of the most storied clubs in USL. I mean, let's say storied. It's not that old anyone in USL, but you've got to consider, I guess, the quality of the teams they're coming up against. You're not necessarily going to get clean sheets against them, especially when you are playing, trialists in some of these games, and they're, not quite up to the level necessarily. I think that's, not something to be concerned about at all, really, in my mind.
Repetto and Hurst, they haven't scored. They've been switching off on that number 9 position on the field. Is this the story moving forward? They're being more of like a target kind of forward, at least in Repetto's side. And should we expect more goals from, people like Darnell King, Santi Mora, of course, anybody else that might push up a little bit higher? Is this something that, we should expect of the strikers moving forward?
Well, if Santi Mora scores more goals, I think he's going to be the MVP for the league, right? I think that the boys will click up top. I think that it's just a matter of time. And Claudio could have had a goal on Saturday. Unfortunately, again, the footage doesn't exist to our knowledge.
That's the whole time we're talking about Owen and me in the press box. We're like, look, if we had the footage of it, people could see what happened.
We could tell if it was actually offside or not. But, that footage doesn't exist. So we don't know. We really don't know if he was onside or not. In that case.
And then you and I were on the other side of the pitch, so we can't really...
Oh, we really had no idea. I mean, it was just a mess of bodies up there. It means nothing from where we were sitting.
Regardless if it was offside, it was a great header. And that's one of the things
very good header.
We should look forward to, that Repetto with that size that he has. He's going to be able to get high up there and, create some chances like he did. Well, now that we're talking about that called offside goal, there was a scuffle right after, and if you guys were at the stadium, you guys were able to see that. I think it was Lambert who went over to get the ball, and Louisville's goalkeeper kind of gave him a shove, if I'm correct, if I've been hearing correctly, and then a little bit of a scuffle surfaced there. And that was one of 3 in the game, if I remember correctly. So what do you make of these scuffles? Is this more of a heart, there's this passion that Rising players have, or is it a lack of temperament?
That's interesting. I think that it's probably a combination of both. And I know that Scott, as Edwin kindly throws the question up for us here, also made a comment there about Jai and Arturo being able to control their passion. And Jai, I mean, we were questioning at the time, did he get 2 yellow cards?
The referee
we don't know.
Too,
We don't know. On the refereeing front, I will say, just you have to be a little bit patient, guys, because ultimately there are far too many games that get played here, and they don't bring officials with them. Typically, a couple of the MLS guys do come down, but they come down for the MLS games earlier on, right? You've got guys who realistically won't be working Rising games, working these friendlies, because that's the nature of having too many clubs. Like Colorado Springs have come down, and El Paso were here at one point. They're all trying to play friendlies.
Or they'll go down to Tucson around.
Yeah. There's only so many referees in Arizona who are capable of handling those games. Okay, you're not going to get them on all of these friendlies, but I think as a whole, it's just, I think that some of the boys, and it's not just the 2 that Scott mentioned. I think that Santi, we all know that Santi loses his head sometimes. We all know that Joey Farrell loses his head sometimes, and they do things that are just, why are you taking this yellow card, right? I understand it. I understand that, and you want to see passion. You want to see all that fight from the players, but you've just got to temper it that bit, right? And you've got to know where the line is. I'd have understood it sometimes in more cases if it was like, a really, really bad foul. Like we saw in the Real Salt Lake game in 2021 in the preseason game down there, where there was a really hard late foul, and some of the boys lost their head because it's a friendly. You shouldn't see that. You shouldn't be, steaming in like that into challenges in preseason. But some of the things like a disallowed goal is what sparked one off. A disallowed goal in a preseason game. Is that worth a mass confrontation?
Yeah. No, I know. I think in the second half when Quinn was the one that was, I think, granted, Quinn kind of handled it pretty well. I think it was his teammates. And for example, now that you mentioned Santi was the one that came from the other side of the pitch to confront the guy that fouled Quinn pretty hard in the second half. And I think Santi had a frustrating game because he had a few chances he wasn't able to complete. And eventually, I think he ended up getting a yellow card for that little shove that he did.
He just ran in and shoved the guy
out of the way, exactly. And then he grabbed the ball and then he kicked it off when he got substituted. So I love the passion, but like you're saying, maybe it's a little bit more like, let's control it. It's preseason. Let's, cool our heads a little bit and just play with a little bit more composure instead of just, slamming, like they did. So let us know in the comments if you guys, what do you guys think? If you guys were at the stadium, if you guys heard, how do you feel about this passion that we're seeing on the field? Speaking of being on at the stadium, I'm gonna spark some thoughts here, but it looked a little empty to me. I'm just gonna put it out there. I know it's a preseason. I know there wasn't any beer. I know Saturday was the dunk contest for the NBA. Everybody was home trying to watch that. Just kidding, that was horrible. Don't watch it. But what was going on?
No. It's preseason, right? It's preseason. Again, there was no beer, and I think that is
no food trucks. I think there was like 2 food trucks.
We can joke about that, but it is going to have an impact, right? Okay. It's going to prevent if you just wanted to go out on a Saturday night and do something.
Just chill, yeah.
Unless you're really into football, you're not going to go watch a preseason game where the away team don't even have numbers on their backs. You don't even know who they are.
Thank you, Louisville.
Right? They're people in Louisville kits, and that's about as far as it goes. If you don't really care about this sport, why would you show up?
Even Edwin, before the show started, he was talking about the dollar beer night, and I wasn't aware of this until today, that I guess it's not allowed anymore.
It's just not happening.
But he was making the comment that some friends asked him, when's the next dollar beer night? I'll show up for that. And, obviously if there's no alcohol, some people will not. So
yeah, it's just that one's a complicated subject. And unfortunately has implications on where they're currently playing, not being able to do those dollar beer nights. Yeah. But
I like those comments there, Jet. Some had 3-day weekends and maybe jumped town. That is true. President's Day weekend.
It's very true.
Justin, Phoenix Rising.
The good news is it shouldn't impact the regular season from what I hear. So don't worry. You're gonna be back to being an utter mess by the time that Monterey Bay game comes around.
Let's talk about some of the things that were brought up on social media after the game. There was a mention of a kickoff kind of play, goal kick strategy from Rising, where one of the center backs will either put the ball down and kick it to Lund, and then try to find some space in there between the lines in the midfield. What is going on with that? I know you asked Rick about it today in the press conference, but any more explanation to what's going on in that little play that they do?
I think the easiest way really is just get Rick up. Actually, we've got
he ended up having a surgery. What he had was it was something ironically, obviously I'm an Arsenal fan, but I was watching how Mikel Arteta was setting up Arsenal to deal with some of the pressing teams in the Premier League. And, I think it was against Leeds, I'm not sure, but the center back starts with the ball, plays it to the goalkeeper. Most of us coaches, we all work on how to press or how to trap when the ball's in wide areas, but nobody really practices. You can't really press or be aggressive when the ball's in the center of the field, because the player he can go either way. With that being said, we now have Ben Lund, who's got very good feet, very good passer of the ball, can find both fullbacks equally well. And it's exciting because now if teams do decide to press us, we don't just have to line up and kick it long and try to win the second ball. I think we're good enough to play through it, which then allows us to have space behind for Marcus and Santi and Greg and Claudio and our speedsters to really run at teams. So I love it. I love being able to play through teams. I love being able to handle the pressure and to be able to play in tight spaces. That's what we bring these good players in for. And I think it's going to pay huge dividends for us rather than being so predictable.
Edwin, you threw the wrong video up initially.
I'm sorry. All right, listen, a little bit of rustiness right there.
Threw off my whole show now, man. Come on.
Hey, you're giving away what we're going to talk about later, you know?
It was a little tease. You got to give the fans a little bit of a tease.
A little bit of a tease.
A little bit of tease. So don't worry, I'm just making Ramon's job easier for later.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Edwin. I was looking out. But yeah, Rick's explained that he basically got it from Arsenal over there, and because he trusts Lund with his feet and with the players able to make a plays with that, he's comfortable with doing this goal kick strategy. But how do you feel about it? And have you seen it work this last 2 games?
Well, it's we always see this in preseason, right? To an extent, you know, we always see Rick try playing it out of the back in preseason. It's happened every preseason that I can remember. Normally, if it doesn't work, it just gets abandoned. But you know, I think if he wants to play around with it in the preseason and he thinks that Lund can do it. Give it a go in the preseason. The only thing I'll say is if it doesn't work, it had better be gone by the time the season comes around, because you know that's a danger, right? It's a danger when you pin yourself back like that if you aren't able to play out of that pressure.
Because I think he pushes the midfield up a little bit higher too. So if the center backs mess up the passing, that gap is right there where the forwards are. So it leaves you exposed, basically. I'm a fan of it. At least trying new things. I did remember one pass in specific from Joey Farrell, breaking the lines and finding Arturo and him being able to turn around. So I like that. But we'll see. We'll see if it continues in the preseason. During the press conference today with Rick Schantz, we did get a little bit of an update, on the trial list. So if you have that video, let's put it up.
He ended up having a surgery. What he had was it's kind of a hip impingement. So some of us, from playing soccer, the ball joint of your hip kind of fits into a socket, and you can grow little bone spurs on that joint, and it causes a lot of pain, and it's kind of like a grinding, you know. So they've got to go in and clean that up a little bit, and so he can get his full range of motion back and have no pain. He's doing really, really well. I think he's already walking, and it's been 3 days or so. So he's going to be, it's still 4 to 6 months, but because of his age, we felt that it was very important for him to take care of it right now, rather than try to play through it and tough it out. But he's doing really well.
Is there any progress with the trial lists or any other options you've got at centre back there?
Well, both trialists, we did not sign either one. I thought Gabriel Claudio was a kid from UNLV, good player, did really well, showed some promise. I think he may be going with Union Omaha for a week on trial. Hopefully he gets to play there and we can kind of watch him and observe how he does in League One. Ryan Ludwig unfortunately came in a little bit late. He did a job for us. We were very thankful for that, but had to move on from both of them. We do have a couple of options that we're working with a few MLS teams, but nothing too serious as of yet.
All right, just to clarify some stuff. So yeah, we got an update on Niall Dunn and his surgery. We'll talk about that in a quick second. But towards the latter end of that video, he talked about the trialists. So there were 2 center backs that were on trial. Unfortunately, none of them were signed. What did you already? If you read Owen's piece on PHNX.go.com, he kind of dived into a little bit. But were you hearing good things about these guys, or is there something that they're kind of just,
What is going on in the chat, please, guys?
That's a terrible joke. My God. Just put it on the screen. But yeah, what's going on with the trialists, Owen?
Yeah, so both of them have departed the club. I mean, ultimately, they wanted to look for that depth, especially with Niall out for 4 to 6 months with hip surgery, which, you hear hip surgery in 17-year-old and you think, ooh.
Bone spurs, yeah. No, not good.
I'm sure, he was working. He's kept working. We saw him on crutches on Saturday, but he seemed like he could move relatively easily enough. I'm thinking that they're gonna have to look. You'd have thought to bring someone in as a full centre back, but clearly they thought that these guys weren't the option they wanted to take.
Mhm.
It's still gonna be quite difficult, I think, to get someone in there though.
Yeah. So Rick said a couple of guys from the MLS they might be looking at. So
Yeah, I mean, the thing about that is that I think, and I probably put the cross up and get holy water from somewhere if I'm going to speak the name of MLS Next Pro. Which Scott, thank you for chiming in right on when I'm about to say that.
Scott read your mind. Yeah,
I think that what you have to think about is how that impacts loan signings in this league, and it's not going to impact guys like Tate Schmidt, right, who came in last season and was expected to play, but it is going to impact guys like Rising wanting a fourth choice centre back. Because you got to think about why you send a guy out on loan in the first place. You send him out to get something that he's not getting at his parent club. Almost always, that is minutes.
Mm-hmm.
You want people to be out on the pitch. A fourth centre-back is not going to play, right? Or you're going to play a little bit, but not too much.
Yeah.
So, if they're going to do that, you might as well be playing week in, week out for your MLS Next Pro side. Mm-hmm. I think that ultimately, unless he's looking to bring someone in who I think is going to probably slot in then ahead of Manuel Madrid in as the third centre back, when you'd expect they would get minutes.
Yeah,
I'm not so sure that it's going to be as easy to sign that centre back as it would have been, say, last season.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's impossible, but it's not going to be quite as easy.
Pat has a really good question. Are they looking for a fourth centre back or a possible two? How many would you bring? One, or do you think with one that'd be okay? With Madrid maybe coming back a little bit sooner, or going with two would be the safest option?
I think that I think Madrid should be coming back. That's the thing. They're not really expecting to have him out for too long. The hope is that he was in some light training when we went just over a week ago.
Mm-hmm.
I believe the official word was 2 weeks. So
yeah.
Coming up to this weekend, he should be fine after this weekend.
Yeah, so probably at least one, right?
Yeah.
We did get a little bit of an update on Niall Dunn. 4 to 6 months is the prognosis.
Yeah, it's going to be a while.
Yeah, and that, to me, the way Rick described it was pretty nonchalant, but to me, it's like kind of scary, especially with that, hip joint and socket and all that stuff with bone spurs. So, wishing the best to Niall over there, hopefully for a speedy recovery. We did get another update regarding team captaincy and the jersey reveal. So I'll give that over to Owen.
Yeah. So it sounds as though the team captain is going to be announced on the same day as the jersey reveal, probably at the same event. I know that some of the people at Phoenix Rising, shout out to Jose Bosch, been working on a jersey reveal, I believe. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. Should be on about the 6th of March is what Rick told us in the press conference. He did come up with that off the top of his head and said he thinks it's that date. So
it might be.
Please don't hold that against him or against us if it's slightly out. But yeah, looking around that 6th of March time. So that's when you're going to get your jerseys, since everyone has been asking about that non-stop for weeks.
And so that's March 6th is going to be a Sunday, and maybe March 5th, which is a Saturday. So just keep that weekend open for jersey reveal stuff. Pat Moses has a good question, Jet as well. He said that by two, I mean your number 2 center back. Are they convinced Joey is a title-winning center back?
That's a good question. I know that last season Rick was very much fond of Joey in what he said to us. I remember he took a press call when he was up in Vegas. It was one of those weeks where you had the short week and, they were playing away on Wednesday and then had to fly straight to Vegas for the Saturday. And we were asking about Joe Farrell, and he said that Farrell's a guy who every season, he's like, I don't know if I'm going to bring him back. I don't know if he's quite up to it. And every season, Joey just turns around and makes himself irreplaceable. I think that that's probably the way that look, if a number 2 centre back who genuinely is ahead of Joey Farrell becomes available, I think that he's definitely someone that the club will look at, because you can't turn players like that out, especially because, as I said, you've got the The problems whereby are you going to easily get a guy in as a number 4 centre back on loan from an MLS team now with MLS Next Pro, and I don't think it will be that easy.
Yeah. It'll
You
probably
know,
get harder next year, right? Once
yeah.
the USL teams, get to
Once it
MLS
even
teams.
splits off even more,
Mhm.
right? And there's talk about other independent teams they're looking for. Who even knows anymore on
Yeah.
that? But, I think that there's just, if a number 2 centre back appears, I think that Rick will take that seriously. But I don't think that that's the priority necessarily. I don't think he looks at replacing Joe Farrell as a priority.
I think right now it's more depth and being guarded for those injuries. All right, awesome. Well, thank you so much for the questions, guys. Keep it comment. We love the questions and comments you have. Edwin is on the job, is trying to click them on so we can all see them. Appreciate that. All right, y'all. So take a little bit break and let's talk about DraftKings for a second. So if you guys saw the NBA All-Star game this weekend, it was an awesome event. I lost a lot of money on Devin Booker for MVP, so probably should have.
How much did you bet?
Just $10, but it is a lot of money to me. So you guys can check out the latest offer from DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. New customers can bet just $1 on any team and get $150 in free bets if they win. It's that simple. DraftKings Sportsbook customers can also bet on the NBA with same-game parlays, combine multiple bets from the same game for a bigger payout. The more legs you add, the more you can win. DraftKings is safe, secure, and reliable. Best of all, you can deposit and withdraw your cash whenever you want. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code PHNX. Bet just $1 on any NBA team and get $150 in free bets if they win. And if you don't want to wait until Thursday, which is when the NBA comes back, you can bet on Champions League action tomorrow.
Indeed.
So we got my Manchester United going against Atletico. So hopefully, Ronaldo and Man U can get the W there. Again, promo code is PHNX at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NBA. You do have to be 21 and over. Arizona only. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP. New customers only. Minimum $5 deposit. Eligibility restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Woo, that's a lot to read. Awesome, y'all. So yeah, go ahead and download DraftKings. So a little bit of a fun segment. So I was gonna do favorite sports movie, but I think we got a lot better content that Owain and Edwin were able to come in. So let's chuck it up to them because they got some NFT action going on. So if you guys aren't aware of NFT, you might learn a little bit. I'm learning a lot with these two, and apparently rising players are really into it. So let's chuck it up to them.
Right. Do you want to talk about the good old NFTs, or should we chuck it to Rick first?
You know what? I think I'll give some context to this. I decided to ask Rick today about NFTs because we know that it's something that's a really big topic among certain members of the rising players. Let's say some of them are really getting excited about stuff. So let's just check it over to Rick and what Rick had to say about NFTs earlier today.
Yeah, we were kind of joking about what was it, the pigeons. They were all involved in the pigeons, and everyone was telling me if they had a pigeon, and I think Lalo had one or two, and so they were into it. I think the big game now I hear in the locker room is Wordle, and that's super competitive. So they don't tell each other the word, and they try to see who gets it in the least amount of guesses. So it's pretty fun to watch that unfold. But yeah, I'm actually happy that when you hear them talking about NFTs, or you hear them talking about cyber currency or cryptocurrency, because it's good for their brain. It's good for them not to just be only soccer and only football. That these are well-rounded human beings, and it's important for them, and it's important for all of us to look at them and remember they are humans, and they're not just robots running around on a soccer field. And I think that's one of the things I really love about Phoenix Rising is, we build a family here, and those are topics and issues that come up all the time.
Have you considered buying one of the pigeons?
I did not. No, I'm waiting for hopefully one of these days Phoenix Rising does their own NFT. That would be pretty awesome.
You gonna buy one of those rising NFTs if they come around, Edwin?
I gotta consider it. I mean, you guys,
Put your money into
it's all
it.
about the design and everything. I think the pressure is on all the people at work. Sorry, Jose, the pressure's on you now. It's out of our hands.
Hey, I just want to shout out the comment section because you guys are going off right now. I appreciate that. So I love the Dan Static. I love right click save as. So great comments here. Love it. Keep it going.
But you look, because there are a lot of these guys are investing in these NFTs and the pigeons especially. I mean, come on, Edwin, how do you feel about the pigeons? Seriously now.
It blows my mind. I see when I originally saw NFTs, I didn't think it was going to become a big thing, and I didn't think it was eventually going to land a rising. So when I saw the pigeon, I said, "Oh no, here we go." And I just don't get it. Like, I just don't understand why have one? Like, I'd rather just get like a meal. I'd rather just go get tacos, from anywhere than get some virtual pigeons. That's just my opinion.
Well, I heard the most popular ones excuse the chat. I'm sorry if I don't know too much about NFTs, but I've heard of the ape one. Is that the yacht club or whatever? It's like Club Penguin, but you can't play games.
Sorry, I had to recognize
It's like Club Penguin,
Okay,
but you can't
that.
play games. That is the best definition of NFTs that I've heard so far. It's like Club Penguin, but you can't play games.
More soccer players.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm still trying to catch up to Dogecoin, so I don't know.
Dogecoin to the moon still.
I mean, right, I've just looked up because I found a couple of the players, their NFT collections, right? And I found, for example, right, Lalo, we mentioned him earlier. We know he's been in on these pigeons, right? He loves these pigeons. He bought one for 68, like what is now the equivalent of $68. He's trying to sell this pigeon for like almost $8,000. Now, I don't know who's buying it for $8,000, but good luck to him.
Me.
And then there's Aiden Quinn has got one that he's bought for the exact same price, and he's trying to sell for about $13,000 for these pictures of pigeons.
Yeah, I mean, who's buying these? This is my biggest question. Like, who's going online and saying, I want to buy that pigeon?
I have no idea.
That throws my mind.
But I do know that Zach Lubin is currently working on their latest pigeon drop. So, in the metaverse.
Is it also going to be on March 6th? The big pigeon jersey drop.
NFT reveal. Along with jersey reveal.
That's what Rick was teasing.
Oh, yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Owen, I appreciate you asking the question. That's the content.
We're asking the hard-hitting questions
hard-hitting
here.
journalism.
Yeah.
Here. All right. All right. Well, back to business to finish off the show. And again, I appreciate everybody tuning in in these comments. Love seeing the number up there of viewers. Appreciate you guys tuning in again. So yeah, back to business. Phoenix Rising will be playing a doubleheader this upcoming Friday against Valley United and Detroit City FC. From the press conference, Rick said that the first group will probably play around 75 minutes, second group as well, and then some academy players thrown in there. So that's what we can be expecting on Friday. Unfortunately, it is closed to the public. I believe Owen and myself will be there, so we'll be able to bring you the report. And if you guys haven't, you guys we'll be live tweeting from the event over there on Friday. And if you haven't followed us, PHNX __ rising on Twitter. And what do we always say, Owen?
Double the underscores, double the fun.
There you go.
There we go.
So make sure to follow us over there. But yeah, what can people expect on these two games, Owen?
I think that it's always fun when we see the academy kids out there. We had it a couple of times last year because, I mean, we saw, we saw the guys like Niall Dunn, right? Perfect example. Last season, we got our first look at Niall Dunn, who ultimately went ahead and actually featured last year in one of the games. I think that's something that's exciting because there are a couple of guys who are actually actually able to look at taking that step up and maybe be a fringe player with the first team, and it's always exciting. It's always exciting to see these young kids from local, just from local places coming out and playing for the team. But I think besides that, we're seeing them play against far less. Trying to think of the right word for this now. Without being too disrespectful to the teams that they're playing. They're playing against worse teams. Let's just put it that way. You know what? Let's just put it that way. We've got Valley United who've yet to officially sign a player and are going to be playing in Nisa. And you've got then the Nisa All-Stars themselves, Detroit City, who do have a couple of good players, but they are nonetheless the Nisa All-Stars, right? And you'd have to imagine they're not going to be the same. Well, they're definitely not on the same page as any of the MLS teams that Rising played, and they're definitely also not really on Louisville City's level, a team that have consistently achieved things in this league. So, it's going to be interesting. It gives perhaps more space to try different things without quite having the same level of talent against you.
Mm-hmm.
So it does give you a little bit more room to play around with different things. And I guess, we'll just have to see what it is that Rick actually looks to do in those games.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I was going to follow up with. Valley United will be facing off against Phoenix Rising for the U.S. Open Cup. They're going to be facing off in the second round on April 5th. So is Rick going to be, and the coaching staff going to be taking notes to see what players? You said that they yet to officially sign the players. So are they kind of just more focusing on fitness with rising players, or is it kind of keeping an eye as well? So a little bit of both, you say?
I mean, we really don't know what they're doing. They haven't even announced their stadium for this coming year.
It says GCU on Google.
Well, so. It was originally, and then NISA came out and said all the games are TBD, which the last time I checked was against the professional league standards. But regardless, we'll continue. Mm-hmm. I just look. We really don't know what's going on there. Rick keeps pointing out that Ricardo Velasco is playing for them, which. A guy who did play in Tucson, did play with Salt Lake before he ultimately was convicted of, I believe it was some kind of sex offense, and got released up there. He's the only guy that we know. Jason Johnson was with them. Look, we have no idea what on earth is going on with Valley United. Yeah. We don't know if the team we're going to see them playing on Friday is going to be the team that's going to play them in the Open Cup. Genuinely, who knows? Yeah. Who knows at this point?
So yeah, we'll make sure to jot down some notes and bring you the update from whoever we see over there on Friday. Let's talk about Detroit City FC, or as the chat likes to say, the NISA All-Stars. So yeah, they're part of the MPSL league from 2012 to 2019, and then they were part of NISA for basically just a year, right? Just due to COVID, they weren't able to play in 2020. And then they now move on to USL. So this is the third NISA team after Oakland and Miami to join USL. What can we expect? I saw some great videos on YouTube regarding the fan base, but as far as the players, you know anything about that?
It's gonna be interesting, isn't it? There's a couple of good players in there. I know I mentioned him in response to the question that we had sent in to us last week, which was, how will the NISA All-Stars fare in USL? About that delightful segment of questions sent in by our own Phoenix Rising Nation. But
again, on Twitter, PHNX __Rising.
Indeed. Look, at the end of the day, we don't really know what they're going to offer because we haven't seen a lot of those guys up against USL players. And we may not even really know what they offer now because this game on Friday, we don't know what Team Rising is going to put out and all of that. It's all very up in the air as to who's playing at what times. And, if they put the second group out against Detroit City, do we really know as much about how they're going to perform in this league? We probably don't. Yeah. Look, at the end of the day, still a lot to go on. I know that, there were signs that a former Rising player in Billy Forbes was actually training up in Detroit City, and he posted pictures on his Facebook account, which after a little bit of sleuthing we discovered was actually the Detroit City Fieldhouse. So who knows?
Yeah,
who knows?
Yeah, so I think what we can take out of these two upcoming games, it's mostly focused on fitness, getting the guys up to speed, less tactical I would say, from the Sporting one and the Houston and of course Louisville. So yeah, definitely something to take a look at. So yeah, we'll bring you all the report from Friday, and we'll let you know what happens over there. Again, as always, follow us on social media, on Twitter, PHNX __Rising. I did see that message or on the comment. I don't know if you can put it up, Edwin, that the one underscore was taken.
Yeah.
Unfortunately it was, so we try to get it for you guys.
Yeah. Double the underscores, double the fun.
There you go.
Stand by that one.
Yeah. So yeah, that pretty much wraps it up for this I was gonna say this week's show. For Tuesday's show, we'll be back on Thursday at 6 p.m. But again, we do want to let you guys know about our soccer burb shirt. So if you guys can see it here, you guys can go to PHNX.
He's now adopting the lingo. You spent too long around the people that are following us.
I had to do it. I appreciate it. So yeah, Edwin, if you got the little image up there, you guys can go to phnxlocker.com and purchase your very own PHNX Rising podcast shirt. And again, it helps us out here, helps the show, and you look good wearing it. So next week, next Tuesday, hopefully, the rest of the crew will wear it as well. So anything else, Edwin? I know we kind of didn't really talk to you too much this show, but anything you got to say?
The chat was elite today. That's all I gotta say. Listen, I mean, it's always great when we have all the viewers come in and give Owen a hard time, because Owen can spit all the knowledge, but when the chat is on one, it throws him off too. So it's always fun to do. And,
oh yeah, they do. And Justin, please
put the
go
PHX
Rising
now. Nation comment for me, just for my ego, Edwin.
And I gotta tease something. We want to get more followers on Twitter. We keep plugging it, so we have a sub goal count. So if we hit 500, we're looking for suggestions on what we should do. I know a lot of it's going to be related to Owen, so I'm sorry, Owen, for doing this.
No, don't put me on the spot.
But it could be Owen related.
Edwin, let's put Edwin in there.
I'm willing to do something too.
I agree with that.
Whoever wants to, I'll take it. Even Ramon. Ramon's not safe for this.
Don't put me in there. I just asked the questions. I'm just kidding. No, but yeah, if you guys can help us out, get us to 500 followers on Twitter, PHNX Rising. 500 followers, that's what we're looking to get. We're trying to beat our brothers over there at DNVR Sports, so if we can get more
I mean, you gotta look. If you need any motivation, just remember that you're sticking it to an MLS team.
Hot sauce challenge.
Cinnamon.
Oh, kind of like the hot ones, maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Dan is static. At least Owen is wearing the right shirt. And he said, "Burb, everything's going downhill." Okay, that's the last time I said that, but yeah. All right, guys. So yeah, that wraps it up for this week. And again, go on Twitter, follow us there, get your shirt, and we'll be back on Thursday for more of a preview of Friday's doubleheader between Rising and Valley United and Detroit City FC. That's it for us here at PHNX Rising. We will see you on Thursday. Take care.